Marsh, that's quite a spread for Kiddush Ruin. Did you do that?
Which Kiddush?
And Mizrahi room.
You mean in the Gruda?
But yes,
Yes. We rearrange all the Kiddush.
that's impressive.
Oh, it's nice to get a compliment instead of a complaint.
Yeah, it's nice. They do a good job.
Jews complain. I didn't, the spread was
Yeah,
nice, it was good.
Never.
All right, let's get started. So one of the things that we were looking at before Shabbos are the conditions of when you can tell someone you shouldn't shop at that place. You shouldn't shop at that place. And so he's just quoting straight from the Sefer Chafetz Chaim. You have to have four conditions met. Number one, you have firsthand information that your friend may get ripped off. Number two, that you try to resolve the issue in some other way. So, for example, if you can try to convince the guy to stop ripping people off, you should try that before ruining his reputation. Number three, don't exaggerate. Don't overinflate what the guy's doing wrong. And number four, that your intent has to be for the benefit of the consumer and not to get back at this guy, not to take revenge on him for having ripped you off or some other.
Or to get him to do the right thing.
To get him to do the right thing. But it's really for the try to help your fellow Jew. That's really, it has to be your objective. Your objective can't be,
Instead of them screwed me, so I'm gonna get him back.
That's right. That's right. So that's probably the hardest one to fulfill, and is to make sure that your kavanas are pure. Okay. All right. Next, Sheila. Misha kana Michael becheskes kosher. V'nodelo achar she'achal ma'at me'ha'ochel she'Michael ze asr la'ochlo. This happened to me in the airport in Poland. I bought a coffee, put milk in it like I always do.
What was the problem?
I was fleischig.
Oh,
I was fleischig, so I threw the coffee away. I was so bummed at myself because it was expensive. It was like
Lattes was it?
in zlotys, it was probably, I don't know, 30 zlotys, something like that.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it was expensive coffee. So anyway, a guy buys some food with the assumption of it's being kosher. And after he eats a little bit of it, he realizes that he's not allowed to eat it. Can he take it back and ask for a refund? Or could we argue that since he already ate a portion of it, he can't nullify his purchase with the argument that it's not kosher? Now, first of all,
I'm a little confused. Is it not kosher or you made a boo-boo? Didn't eat it.
well, here he's saying
It's not kosher.
that it isn't that it's usher for to eat it. He doesn't say why it's usher to eat it. He wants to nullify the sale. If he hasn't opened the package yet, he's working under the assumption that you'd be allowed to return it, which isn't always true. Like in the case of when I bought myself the coffee, they custom made that coffee for me. What are they going to do with it? It's now, so I wouldn't even think to ask for my money back in a situation like that, because when it's a prepared food that's just for you, so then it's I don't think you can do that. But anyway, let's his argument is, what if you started eating it? Does that give rise to the certainly it would seem that you shouldn't be allowed to return it. Anyway, kana Michael becheskes kasher v'nodelo achar kach shemichael ze asr la'ochlo hareze kamun b'mekach v'hakoni yachol levatel hamekach. That if you buy food that is assumed to be kosher, and then you discover afterwards that you're not allowed to eat it, So again, here he seems to be saying, even though the language is imprecise, he seems to be saying that it's not kosher, meaning that no one can eat it. And you had originally thought that it was kosher, but now you realize it's not kosher. So this constitutes a blemish in the purchase. And therefore the buyer, if it was under the pretense that it was kosher, if it was represented that it was kosher
So that's
in
different.
some way.
Different.
Yeah. So that would make it different. V'lachein-
Also, if he's selling it, yeah, we're speaking about it in Israel. If you're selling it at the airport, for instance, and you don't say anything,
Right.
you assume. I don't even think if he says that it's kosher and it's not kosher, I don't think there's a question. Or if there's no kosher and he buys it, I don't think there's a question either. But you
Right.
also have non-Jews that go through the airport, so you can't assume that anything is kosher in an
Correct.
airport.
Correct. It depends on the representation and the circumstances. You're absolutely
We
right.
hate that word, it depends on context, but I guess it depends.
Yeah, yeah. So I just said jinkoye, and then I threw the coffee away.
Shukriya.
Jinkoye means
Yeah, thank you.
thank you. V'lachein yachzir l'moicher es
Other trips to Poland too?
v'lachein yachzir l'moicher es haMichael v'yakabel es ma'osav b'chazara. And therefore you can return the food to the seller and get your money back. But that's when you haven't eaten any of it. Vim achlo kvar im isuro min haTorah machzir hamocher hamos afal pisha achlo. I just wrote about this in the last issue on Shabbos. If you already ate it, so if it's biblically usher to eat, so then the seller has to return the money because you're considered as not having gotten any hana from it. The misuru midirabanan eno machzer hamos shel chelik sha'achal. If, however, the isser is only midirabanan, so then the seller does not have to return the part that he ate. So this is a really interesting phenomenon. Let's say a guy buys food or buys a bottle of wine, and it's a Shemitah bottle of wine. He discovers when he brings it home that it's Shemitah. And he doesn't want to have to deal with it. There's like different restrictions, and some posts can question whether you're even allowed to.
Heter versus.
Heter Mechira, Otzer Bastin.
Airport has Tudai, and you're not great with your Hebrew, but you're very from. And it's Rabbanut, and you only eat Mahadra.
There you go.
That's
Okay.
even better.
In all of those cases, you're not entitled to a refund. You're not entitled to a refund. The seller can refuse your refund because the seller only misrepresents a product if it's midioraisa treif and he represents it as kosher. So what I had written about in my column for this last week's bulletin was the case we saw from Rav Shraga and Rav Shraga's sefer, where a guy had he was making a chasana in Israel, and a number of his friends are a certain type of chassid or a certain type of mahadran that they only eat from. So he ordered that for his relatives for the entire wedding. But when he gets there, the caterer and the whole manager said, "Yeah, we work with them all the time. Don't worry, we'll take care of it." He gets to the wedding, and it turns out that they have a different hechsher. And the guy says, "Yeah, this one's just as good." But the problem is, it may be just as good for you, but my 50 family members who are coming to the wedding are not going to touch the food because they will not eat food unless it's from their Rebbe, from, whatever the situation is.
The regular hashgacha. Be the same question.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that kind of situation, so you're not, if whatever food is eaten let's say there's only 50 of your relatives who won't touch the food, but the other 200 guests will. So in that situation, you have to pay for the food that you ate, but the meals that weren't touched. So we said that, that's because you couldn't feed your guests; they wouldn't touch the food. So therefore, you don't have to you don't have to pay for those. Avi'imza haya iser hana bein ha'isr me'atorah midivrei sofrim hamekach batel ve'ein bahem din mechira klal she'einam shavim klum v'lechen hamocher machzor l'kainam ma'osav. If, however, the item was Asr Bahana, let's say it was Orla or something like that, where you're not allowed to get Hana, even if it's only an Isser Hana Midrabanan, so then the sale is null and void no matter what, even if you ate some of it already, because the food is worthless. The food is absolutely worthless. So if you sold me something that I can't get Hana from, then any money that I paid for it, even if I already ate some of it, or even if I ate all of it, I'm still entitled to a money back guarantee. So the bottom line is that if food is mamish treif, even if I ate some of it, you have to pay me back for whatever I and Rav Shraga says that if there's leftover food, let's say I ate, you sold me a non-kosher item, it's non-kosher midoraisa, but I only ate half of it. I have to give you back the other half, and I get a full money back refund because you can at least maybe sell that other half to a non-kosher vendor. Okay, so the seller doesn't have to take a full loss. But if it's only an Isser de Rabbanan or a Chumrah, so then the person who ate it is not entitled to a refund at all.
You call the Rabbanot versus Mahadra. What category would you?
That's even less than a de Rabbanan.
Right.
It's even less than a de Rabbanan.
And
So
if they didn't eat it, according to Rav Shraga, you'd still have to.
if the person never even opened it and touched it,
the
and
plate of the main course.
well,
It's a meat issue, not necessarily, it could be the vegetables too.
so as I wrote in the column, it would seem to me that if the people won't touch the food, they mamish, so you couldn't feed your guests at all. So there, I think you should be entitled to a refund because you explicitly told the guy, I need this hashgacha in order for my guests to eat. They ended up coming and not eating any of the food.
And what would be if in case there was this a Rabbanot versus Mahadran, and they ate everything and they find out, the Lullabais finds out afterwards, the Lullabais.
So no one's entitled to a
No one's
refund.
entitled to
Yeah,
anything. Does
right.
the caterer have to do something to because according to those people, they, you know, how they think, they ate tray.
Right. So
is there any
no,
requirement?
no.
Halacha.
Mitzad halacha, no. But you know, if he wants to preserve his reputation, he should probably try and mollify the Baal Simcha in some way.
Future business.
Yeah, for future business. Yeah. Okay. B'yesh omrim kishikana Michael becheskas kosher. V'nodelo achar kach l'koina shemichael ze aser v'yesh kan mekach tos. Some say that when you purchase something that was represented as kosher, and then you discover that it's not, and so there was a mekach tos, a null sale, a sale under false pretenses, v'hamocher tzarach lahachzir l'koina ma'osav, and the seller has to return the money. Kol ze'im haya hamocher mezid kishamarcha l'koinas amaychol ha'aser. Some say that it's only when the seller deliberately sold it to him, knowing that there was a question on the kashrus. Ulam im haya hamocher shogeg v'lo yada kishamarcha shemaychol ze aser ba'achila. If, however, the seller had no idea also, he also thought it was kosher. And a lot of times the retailer has no knowledge that the food that he got is not kosher. Yesh omrim shein hakona yachal lahotzi mehamocher lo samos sheshilim bat hamaychal ha'aser kol shekvar achlo hakoina v'chein halach. Some say that the buyer, as long as he's eaten some of it, he cannot get his money back for the stuff that he's already eaten. He can get his money back for the stuff that has not been eaten, but cannot get his money back for the stuff that's already been eaten. And that's how he paskins, even though Rav Shraga did not bring this. And as far as whether the person who ate it has to do tshuva or not, okay, like he feels terrible, does he need a kapara? Does he need some kind of atonement? He says, see my footnote. So first of all, there's a lot to discuss here. Um, Because of, I'm just talking about the part where he says that if the seller was b'shogeg, he didn't do it intentionally. He quotes the Shach here, Masha ochal ochel v'hu yachzir lo hadam, Masha ochal v'hu yachzir lo hadam mishum knas, Rashi sham lefiza mashma davka yadua shehayodei shem dvarim hasurim, u'machron b'mezid kansinan le, halav hachilo de'efshir shogeg hayav. So he quotes the language of the Shach, which sounds like it's a penalty that we place on the seller to have to return the money for selling something that was non-kosher. He says if it's just a penalty, then it should only be imposed on someone who did it maliciously. So he continues on with along these lines.
It's a much sooner, just he didn't do his due diligence. It's his responsible to make sure. Didn't do it purposely, but he's responsible.
I would think the question is, to what point you expect the person to take, to ensure that everything is 100%. So what degree do you go and say, let's use Coleman here? You know, he's getting his food from Shefa, his meat.
Yeah, his meat, and then it's discovered that one of the
Right.
it was that they had someone broke in.
After 30 years of dealing with Shefa, that you're gonna, like, how far do you take this from their perspective?
Yeah.
How does money really compensate that? Like if you go back to this wedding example, assuming, everybody ate it and then found out after, money doesn't compensate that.
No, but you don't come back.
Well, we were saying that,
What did the caterer serve? He served treif, or he served like a lower level hechsher?
Lower level hechsher. So in Moishe's words, the family feels, the 50 people feel like they ate great.
Yeah.
So we were saying, well, maybe the caterer should compensate in some way, but money doesn't compensate for eating trade.
Depends how much money.
And the shoma could be bought.
In other words, when the item is mamish treif, you've caused me some damage, so you should have to give me at least my money back. I got no benefit from that. The argument as to why I don't have to, the seller doesn't have to give the money back is because if it's only an Isser D'Rabbanan, the person who ate it benefited from it. So he did benefit from it, even though he feels bad that he ate something that, according to his Rebbe, would not be kosher. So, but nonetheless, you benefited from it. And so there the poskim do draw a distinction between an Isser D'Rabbanan and an Isser D'Oraisa. So there's a quote here from Rav Ovadia Yosef, who in one of his footnotes to the Kaf HaChaim writes, it says, "Ve'hevi l'divrei harishonim v'achronim ba'alachas, uv'siyam kasav sham u'le'inyan dina hol v'ika plukta d'Rabbanan basrai naktinan l'dina kedas ataz v'hashach v'pri chadash dahavi mitam knas." That there's a machlokas as to why the seller has to give you your money back when you ate mamish treif. Is it because you absolutely didn't benefit at all and therefore you're entitled to a refund? Or is it because we penalize the seller? So, umishum hachi b'shogeg hamocher eino machzer lo kol hadamim rak yishalim lo demei ha'odef al demei treifa b'zol mishum sha'mocher yochel lomar kimli kedas harabanim hanal mitzveka lo mafkinim mamona v'chulei ayin sham. And therefore, in a case where the guy is a shogeg, where the seller says, I didn't realize, he doesn't have to return all the money. But what he is obligated to return is if there's a differential between kosher and non-kosher food, so the seller has to at least return that. Okay, so now, does he need kapara? So this is what he said he would talk about at the end of the footnotes. Ayin sham b'nesivos v'os gimel shekasav. Ve'efshir da'af b'yisurei Torah filo achlan b'shogeg tzarech kapara tshuva lagin ala yisur. The Nesivos in his commentary to the Shulchan Aruch says, let's say I ate something that was treif by mistake. What do I need to do? It could be, he says, that since you ate treif, you ingested non-kosher food, which is inherently bad for your neshama. Like Wayne was saying, you may need a kapara, even though you did it unintentionally. Mikol makom be'isr derabanan ein tzarich shum kapara u'cheilu lo avar dami v'chulei ein sham. But if it was only an Isser Darabanan that you ingested, then you certainly don't need a kapara at all. You don't need to do any kind of tshuva. So if you ate from the hashkacha that your Rebbe says is no good, that's not worse than an Isser Darabanan. Unless the Rebbe holds
It's a trade.
where it's mamish treif, because he's seen the shechita there. And by the way, that Rebbe is probably an idiot. Okay, I'm just saying. But it wouldn't be the first time that a Rebbe is an idiot. But if a Rebbe says that this is mamish treif midioraisa, so then okay, maybe then you do need a kapara. But usually the way it works is that they're not using a certain chumrah in either the way they shecht it, or in the requirements of hashkacha, or in the type, or let's say the meat was frozen before being salted, which is a machlokes, whether you can extract all the blood. Okay, so these are legitimate machlokos. So an intelligent Rebbe would say, we don't eat that food, but it's only because we're more machmir on certain shitas and halacha.
And that's the proper way to say it.
Yeah.
When I have discussions with my kids there, they don't say that Rabbanut is trade or Beis Yosef there is trade. Yeah, they just say they want to be more machmir on themselves,
That's right.
and that's it.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
And I have that's fun. So
By the way,
I'll enjoy the Rabbanut, and you can watch.
But by the way, it's quite interesting when Rav Hershel Schachter was talking about the milk. He did say, he says, I don't understand why this milk is not treif. And he was saying actually midioraisa. And, so there, he was saying that's why he doesn't have milk. It's not, but his wife does. So it seems to me, even not Chalav Yisrael, because the issue is not, because Chalav Yisrael is, the milk has to be supervised from the time of the milking until it gets into the bottle, or at least you have to verify that it was, you have to know where the milk came from. But here, his whole concern is that the majority of milk cows are treifa cows, and milk that comes from a treifa cow is treif. So he says,
Is that Deraisa? Where's that? Where's that?
that would be a deoraisa. That would be a deoraisa. Any
Because
milk,
of the blemish in the cow.
because the cows have, they have tuberculosis. They have holes in their lungs, and there's a very high percentage of it apparently. So most poskim hold that it's not a problem, and there's a defense for it. But Rav Schachter feels that even deoraisa it's a problem, and that's why he refrains from it. But the fact that he allows his wife to drink it must indicate that he can't hold that it's mamish and isser deoraisa.
She wears the pants.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Do you know anybody else that also has that strictness?
I guess maybe some of the
Some
students. I don't know about any Rabbanim.
But Rabbi, in Eretz Yisrael, when you have milk that's, in a paradis.
All the milk is Chalav Yisrael in Israel.
Right, but to Rabbi Schefter's point, are all the cows also checked, like the lots? Is that also?
Right. Well, that's the problem. Is that
He's saying it's not. I would
well?
think.
How can you check a milk cow? You can only check an animal for trephis after it's been
I don't know how
killed.
it works, but do they keep milk cows and they never shech them, and they just keep?
Well, they
rotate?
shech them at a certain age, because a milk cow, a dairy cow, only has a certain
And
span.
from that
And then to eat
perspective,
that.
I think they shecht it, and Well, that's the problem. They no longer shech them for kosher because there's such a high percentage of them that are treifas.
What do they do with them?
They probably
sell them to non-Jews.
They probably sell them to non-Jews, to the Arabs. Yeah.
So they don't check it for that kind of stuff.
Well,
No.
yeah. Well, that's the issue, is that the kashrus agencies are really scrambling to see how to resolve this issue. But in the meantime, there are heterim that you can be somech on, that you can rely on.
Yeah, when they check animals, just off topic, when they check animals for holes in the lungs, that's after Shmita, right?
It's always
After, it has to be, right?
Yeah.
What percentage are found to be no good?
I don't know what the current percentage. It's less than, certainly less than about a third. Yeah.
So is there a percentage that you can say, buffalo, whatever, is that how we do it?
Well, we have a general principle of kol deparish meruba kaparish, that any animal that comes from a group, usually we say that you can assume that it came from the majority. But Rav Schachter's argument was that the majority of milk of dairy cows are tubercular.
Wow, so that means no milk, no cream,
No cheese, no nothing.
nothing, no milk, it's no cheese, no nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of my sons no longer has milk because of that talk. Which is, interesting. Okay.
From curiosity, when we went as far with the condition, what is the better to, that we can have? That we can have there after this argument, because it's a argument.
Yes, so there are some poskim who say that you can still rely on the fact that whatever milk that you're eating came from a kosher animal. That the statistics are not as black and white as Rabbi Schechter has represented it.
Because that's everybody. I don't know anyone from the big hashgachas who are not dealing with not giving hashgacha.
Correct. Rabbi Schechter is the posek for the OU, but he's only one of the poskim for the OU. So he basically said, I was outvoted.
Really? Wow. Wow. Better continue eating it quickly before it gets.
Yeah, before it comes to another vote, the next reading.
Next reading, yes.
Enjoy.
Tough around.
Yeah, enjoy the ice cream before it melts.
All the pizza shops, all the,
It would shut up.
It was dazzling.
No.
Unless somehow you could prove that you chef them right away and see that they were kosher.
Right after milking.
Well, if you milk them for well.
then
I
once
don't
you
know.
know, you can't, that won't work either.
And then all the milk goes into one central place, you don't know which cow it came from.
So hold on, no, it would about have it from goat's milk or from other animals. You have the same percentage of trait.
Yes, so that's a very good question. It could be that goat's cheese is probably there would be no
Or
problem.
sheep's milk.
Or sheep's. I didn't ask Rabbi Schechter that question. You can get goat and sheep cheese and goat and cheese milk.
Yeah.
You can buy it even at the Olive Branch carries goat.
Sophie's has have sheep, feta cheese.
Yeah.
Most nutritionists will tell you to eat sheep
I know.
milk.
Yeah.
Stuff as opposed to cow.
Right.
Well. Would be a huge coup when it happens.
Okay. Now he just finishes by saying Va'ain shud chasam sofer shekasav misha achol basar mi behema stam v'nimsa shahi setreifa baseser. A guy eats from an animal that was assumed to be kosher, then afterwards it's discovered to have been a treifa. Bekamia shemaya goli shezeh achol treifa ein bo avan asher chata. This person should not feel that he's committed a sin. Ki misha mitzav v'hizar al treifa hutziv alanu lismoch al harov ayin sham. The Chassam Sofer says, don't feel guilty if you ingested treif. The God who said, don't eat treif, also said that you can rely on the majority, which means that whatever harmful effects treifa might have on your neshama, Hashem will protect you because you did everything correctly. So therefore, the feeling of the Chassam Sofer is that you don't need a kapara at all.
What kapara are we talking about? What is it?
Maybe, to do tshuva, or there are some practices of fasting, the chicken. Yeah, no. Fasting would be one form of chapara.
You have to do the kapara with a cow instead of a chicken.
Get a double hernia. Okay. All right. Have a good day, everybody. See.